Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you how to make Captain Marvel today. Ready? Now to make Captain Marvel, our lady template. I just went on Google and searched for female superhero template. And she popped up, and you can see if you put her in any costume at all, she'll work perfectly with anything you got. So trace her out, cut her out as best you can. Those arms and the hands, as you can see, they're going to be a little tricky because they do move. And yes, I just mixed all the colors right before I use them, so my fingers are stained because, yeah, this stuff stains like a bizotch. Anyway, I'm using the template, lay it down on top, and I'm trying to mark off the main segments of the body. So you can see the back, the one leg is behind the hip and the groin area. I'm using the back edge of my X-Acto knife to trace down the leg to separate the two legs so that there will be a divide there. I'm going to use the veining tool to just kind of outline it a little bit. You don't want to press too deep on the parts of the body that are going to be closest to you. So the leg that's behind it, the leg that shows less, is going to be a little bit lower. So I'm going to end up pressing down on it a little bit just to give it a little depth without going too crazy with it. And I'm sure you can see, and you already know, these are flats. They're not 3D necessarily. If you wanted them to stand at the end, you could connect, lollipop stick or popsicle stick or something to the back of them and have them standing up. But I just took the easy way out on this one. I'm tracing under the breasts, going over the collarbone to separate out the neck, and press down, like I said before, I press down on that one arm on the, it would be her right arm, her right leg, are both just press down a little bit just to give them a tiny bit of depth, a little bit of her neck, so she has a bit of a chin as well as the collarbone. And I'm just putting a little piece of red, rolled out as thin as I could get it, over her hand and lower arm for her gloves. I used the knife blade to just put a couple little marks in to show kind of where her thumb and fingers would be because she's fisted and ready to go. Same thing on the other side. Just press it in against the arm. You can use that veining tool too, however you need, if you need to make the arm a little thinner or trim off anything extra. Same idea with the boots on the bottom. I just rolled a piece across both legs and cut out a little niche there. You can kind of see. It's just kind of like a little, almost like a square I took out of the top piece of the front of her boot there. And I'm pressing down again just to separate the boots a little bit. This is her belt. Her belt has a pocket, I guess. I don't know what you'd consider a little pouch on each hip. Because of the way she's positioned, I'm only going to show one. I made it a little thinner because it was too fat. Measure it off, roll it across or lay it across, and it does sit a little bit lower than a proper belt. It doesn't sit on her actual waist. It sits more on her hips, but kind of high on her hips, so be careful with the positioning. I'm adding her shoulder color here. Using my tool just to kind of push up a little bit to, I don't know, give it the proper shape, I guess. And then I realized her shoulder and her neck were a little fat, so trim some out. Like I said, you might have to trim here and there just to clean it up a bit. Her shoulder piece is kind of separate. It goes on the outside of her shoulder from her chest piece. So that's why I'm putting that little niche in there. And then do the same thing on the other side. You can't see her other shoulder because her well endowment is in the way. So I'm just trimming off the edge and wrapping around the corner there. But again, you got that little bit of a curve kind of to, I don't even know, highlight her breasts or something. I'm not really sure. I'm sure it's functional somehow in her uniform to have them circled out like that. As I mentioned before, the little square cutout of her boot that I did, you do it again on the gloves. You can see the one pretty well. The other one, I just kind of pushed it down a little bit, just trying something else. All right, her face. Her face is a half a circle of beige that I cut and then just plopped into place. Make sure you can see a little bit on either side so her mask doesn't cover all the way around, or you know what I mean. Her face isn't covered all the way on each side. Little indents for her eyes, fill them in with white. I have her kind of slanted down and inward. You don't have to do that. It could be straight across, I guess. If I had to do it again, I probably would go straight across. And I also made a little divot where her nose, where the blue part of her mask would cover her nose. Okay, now we're getting to the gold again. This is the big gold broad stripe that goes across her chest and then up over her shoulders. So I took it's rolled out really thin, but a thicker slice, and I laid it across. I followed the curve of the red that we did and pull it up onto her shoulders. The gold goes up kind of behind her neck, so make sure you tuck it up nice and tight. It doesn't go out to the edges of her shoulder. It does go in toward her neck. And then you're going to add some more gold elements. We're going to give her belt buckle. It's blurry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying different things with different cameras. It's not quite working the way I was hoping, though. Anyway, adding her belt buckle, you're going to make a letter H out of the gold pieces on her belt buckle. Again, just watch where you place the buckle, because her hips and everything, her legs, her body position is tilted to the side, so it's not going to be centered. So make sure you keep it off to the side a little bit. And now we're just going to add some of the gold details here and there in her uniform. She has these two little gold rectangles that I have no idea what they're for. They look like they might be pockets or something, but you saw where I placed it a little bit lower, kind of on the front of her thigh. And from that, there's a thin gold line that goes down each leg from the corner. So that's what I'm doing here. It goes down her leg and kind of into her boot. And I'm going to connect it up just like that. That's what it is. It's just like that. So I'm going to do it again on the other side. But on the other side, I didn't do the little rectangle because I feel like the way she's positioned, it would be off and not visible. So that's why I kind of have it going off to the side of her thigh there. This circle I'm fast forwarding through. I'm just cutting out the star to go on her chest. It's got a bunch of points, the right number of points. I tried to make some bigger than the others and smaller than the others and stick it right in the darn center of everything. And that should do it. And again, as long as the look is there, the feel of it is there, it's going to look like Captain Marvel. You don't have to go crazy with every single detail. Her suit is super jazzed up with lines and squared off marks. So as long as you have that look going, like just lots of lines and everything all over the place, it'll be good. It'll work. So don't sweat it too hard, okay? All right. The red of her costume, the red comes up from her belt buckle, kind of pretty much where each of the H, the up and down part of the H, comes from on her belt buckle. It goes up and follows the curve of her breast and then goes out to her armpits, basically. So the one, as you can see on the one side, just goes off into the nothingness. The side I'm working on here, they're a little too close. They don't actually touch, so be careful of that. You see, I trimmed it off and so it kind of swoops up into her armpit. More red little pieces here I'm cutting out because her uniform, I guess, has lots of pockets. And it's another little red rectangle on either side that is pretty much perpendicular to the yellow one. So you see what I did there? And again, the one red one is a little cut off because it's off to the side and you don't want to see the whole thing. Now I'm using edible food coloring markers and I'm drawing in a bunch of the lines that her uniform has. She has two major ones that follow the red curve down the front of her uniforms. That's all I'm doing. Try to keep them nice and straight. It's supposed to be very futuristic and high-tech looking. So they're not soft, curvy lines. They're pretty straight. I guess kind of like circuit board. Think of it like that. I did one across each elbow, as you can see. And then I'm adding, there's like a little square that's underneath of her belt right there for some reason. The red part that we put on, the red pocket kind of things, are actually more pocket looking, so I just kind of outline them to make them look like a pocket. And then the same idea with the red up top, that line that followed it, I'm doing the same thing down her leg. It goes from her hip, following the yellow, and then down into her boot. And this is what I was talking about before with making squares and everything. Just start filling her in. You can see what I did there. I did a little bit on her chest. She has a couple little rays coming out from the tips of the stars down to the red line, the red curved lines that we did. And yeah, just fill her in. I'm doing brown on the red of her gloves and her boots. I have a red marker, but I find for highlighting things like this or for doing color details, brown on red works a whole lot nicer. It's not too dark like if you used a black, but it stands out enough. So again, you do her gloves, you do her boots, do the red of her chest and her shoulders of her uniform. Start putting in those lines, start putting in, squares and make it look all circuit boardy. And I'm doing her calves. I outlined the top of the boots a little bit. I did the top of her feet. Oh, I never mentioned that I did the soles of her boots in black, but I did show it. I don't know why I didn't mention that. All right, and then I've got the blue again. I'm doing her helmet. She definitely has kind of a rectangle that goes down the center of her forehead. I don't know if it outlines her mohawk when she's flying around or what, but that was something that I've seen over and over again, so I made sure to include it. And just added a couple more squares and lines to her cheek and her neck. Yeah, I think I'm doing the neck right there just to make sure she had something. Just make her look busy. As long as she's filled in with lines and squares and angles, she'll be perfect. Okay, this is the mohawk that she has for some reason. I never quite understood why. But yeah, her hair comes out the top of her helmet when she's in flying around mode. So I've added a little bit of water. I made a flaming mohawk. It's coming straight out the top of her head. At first it was too long, so I just trimmed it down. It doesn't have to be super long. She's not like, a peacock coming out of her head or anything. And now I just stuck her right there on the paper towel just because I needed her to dry and be able to move her around. All right, I'm going to have her flying, which is why I did kind of her aura or her halo that she has around her. So I rolled out some white. This is not too thin, if it's going to support her, it's got to be structurally stable. And I'm just doing curvy, wavy lines, almost like I'm outlining her as if she were going to be a ghost. So if you could see through my hand, you would just see wavy, curvy, wavy, curvy. And then when I peel it off, you see what I mean? It actually looks pretty cool like that, right? In order to treat this white piece, I took my gold spray that I used before and very lightly dabbed around the outside of it. And then I have a white spray, or just a white pearl shimmer, that I covered the whole thing with. So it muted out the gold a bit, and it also made the whole darn thing shimmery. And once it was dry, I put her with a little water on the back of her, splat right on top, and there you go. You got Captain Marvel in flight. And I didn't give her any mouth, but, if you want to, make her happy, make her sad, whatever. Hopefully you like this. Check out my other videos. Thank you very much. I'll catch you all next time. Bye!